the election, the last 90 days, it would all be about one thing, and that'd be trying to solve, Axelrod trying to solve that part of the equation, which were these undecideds. And these undecideds would be all people who voted for Obama, who were undecided about, A, either voting at all, or B, whether they were going to vote against President Obama. And so we said, those have to be all Democrats or independents who basically lean Democratic. Let's go to the battleground states. Let's go to those key counties. We did a bunch of analysis and talked to people about their analysis. 7 states, 100 counties, and let's go do focus groups and find these people. And we, since Dave's a conservative and I'm a conservative, we hired Pat Caddell and Kendra Stewart, 2 prominent Democratic pollsters and strategists, to basically set up these focus groups that we ran for about 7 months, 8 months to start really getting a pool of people. And as soon as we start the focus groups, in Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, Ohio, Iowa, Pennsylvania, and Colorado, we knew right away when we started going to the focus groups that there was gold here, because you could tell these people were very, very, very on the fence about what they were going to do, and they were extremely disappointed in President Obama. So I just doing the focus groups, we're just seeing a huge pool of people that Dave and I turned to each other. This is like in February, and we just said, look, it's all going to come down to this. So let's just really focus and make a great film. I think if you look at this film, it's a tragedy. These people are. It's more in sorrow than in anger. Although some of them are very disappointed in President Obama and just say, "Hey, no way." And a couple of them do say, "I'm angry." They're not angry to him personally. I think there's a great. They think he's a terrific guy, and they think he's a great family guy. And so it's not. There's no. I don't think there's any hatred in this group. And I don't think this group, particularly in this film, that it's really a for Romney. They may change that. I think a large portion of this group will not vote. Right? I think the ones that do vote, if they do vote against the president, it's principally a referendum on the president, and not really a mass switching of votes to, oh, I'm a Republican, or I support Governor Romney. I just think if you look at this, it's a shift. Mm-hmm. But if it's a shift, it's not. It's because of the president's policies. I mean, I think this is clearly what we call a referendum. This film's a referendum film. It's about a referendum. Think about it. What they say about the president is that he continues to say he just needs more time. It's 4 more years. I believe if you listen to the people, and particularly his focus groups, they just don't think he has the managerial competence. That his policies have generally made things worse, and that they don't see any action or any plan, or he hasn't articulated anything that would lead them not to believe that.
Now the other movie that you guys filmed is about Occupy, Unmasking Occupy.
Yeah.
What are aside from the obvious parallels, what other parallels can you draw, or does the movie draw, between President Obama, his administration, and this faux grassroots movement? Because pretty much it is from what I've gathered, it is a fake movement that was actually propped up by the Democrat Party.
I think if you go back and you look at the film, in August we start with the debt debate in July and August of 2011. And if you think about it, President Clinton, if you go to the book The Amateur by Joe Klein, right, he starts his book the exact same thing. That's where President Clinton was up in Chappaqua talking to friends, where he says President Obama was such an amateur about how he handled that. And the film starts off in July and August of 2011, which is the payback for the Tea Party victory 9 months before in 2010. That's where there's this huge debate about whether to increase the debt limit or not. And President Obama's popularity ratings are 39%. Well, the Democratic apparatus wanted to change the conversation. They realized that a discussion on debt and deficits is a loser for them, that they lose that conversation. And so what they wanted to do was to change it to fairness, equality, the 1% and the 99%. And that's why, as Andrew Breitbart, it's really his theory that we developed in that film, is that this was a fairly organized effort to change the conversation. And what appears to be on the top a grassroots movement of college kids and hippies really has a very, very, very dark underbelly to it.
Right, and we saw that with, obviously, I mean, like you said, you exposed Natasha Leonard, the New York Times reporter. Now, she's a former New York Times reporter. Was she fired from her position, or did she leave on her own?
I think Natasha Leonard was, I don't know if you call it fired, but I think she was let go. They after it was exposed that she had been talking at the Blue Stockings bookstore and was kind of an anarchist and was talking to these anarchist groups. He was talking about how you propose this. The New York Times, I believe the day after, said, "Oh, she's just a stringer. She's not really an official correspondent. She does write for us, and we will not be renewing her. We will not be renewing her stringer contract effective immediately." Right? So it was not. I think they came out and made a big deal that she was not a staff reporter, but she was a contributor, which they had not in all of her reporting. They had never said that before, but they very quickly cut ties with Natasha Leonard immediately.
Well, yeah, when they saw the news, them getting the positive press, then she was a New York Times reporter. When they realized she was exposed, she's no longer the New York Times reporter. I mean, convenient.
You said it, buddy. She went around to those news shows for a couple of days, and she was, New York Times, correspondent. But when they came up with the video that showed her how involved she was with these people beforehand, all of a sudden she became a stringer, and she's a we do that on a case by case basis. We will not be renewing the thing. So it just shows you the hypocrisy of it all. And the villains in Occupy en Masse are not really the young kids and the people that are these anarchists, because they have this belief system. They're not the real villains, although they create a lot of damage and they're very dangerous. So don't get me wrong, but the villains are the media and these cynical politicians that try to use this movement, are going to continue to try to use it as a weapon of intimidation against people. The heroes of this film, I think, are very much the cops in the new media who really broke the story, and the cops who, if you watch this film, I think it's the most pro-police movie ever made, because the cops just take so much grief in this and do such a tremendous job of just trying to keep order.